Welcome to the third edition of Small Talks, Big Conversations here from Copenhagen Fashion Week, focusing on sustainability. My name is Moussa Mchangama. I'm the co-founder of Sustainability Advisory in Futurum, and I am your host today. Joining me here live in Copenhagen is Nikolaj Refstrup, the founder of Ganni.
Thank you.
And with us from Hong Kong via link, we have Fanny Moissin, the president and co-founder of Vestiaire Collective.
Hi, guys.
Reselling pre-used garments, specifically in the luxury industry. And Fanny, as one of the co-founders of Vestiaire Collective, could you please elaborate a bit on how you, when you started the company, sort of found that this market, that this niche market was of interest and was of growing interest in the fashion industry?
For having me, it's a pleasure. From Hong Kong, wearing my favorite Ganni top. To answer your question, Moussa, 10 years ago, basically, we identified that the consumer has changed because the industry has dramatically changed. And all of this because of the influence of, back in the days, fast fashion, accelerating massively the pace of this industry. So basically, that consumer was already 10 years ago drawing newness, always willing to have the next thing. Of course, social media was not was here also as an impact, as a massive impact, as people were willing to have new things and wearing always something new on social media. So we identified that end of ownership. And that usage was the thing. People wanted to use something, to let go, and to move on to the next item. So we understood that it waste. That behavior, that consumer behavior, and industry behavior led us with a massive waste in our own wardrobes. The stat is 60% of the wardrobe of a woman is lying there unworn. So we wanted to really understand and find a way to make that waste useful. And as usage was something that was problematic, we wanted to encourage people to reuse. But because of this newness effect, we said, okay, the most sustainable item is the one that is already there, already produced, and already in your wardrobe. So if it's not new anymore for you, it will be new for someone else. So why don't we bring all the fashion addicts and all the fashion lovers on the same platform, provide them with a solution that basically will enable them to have a better and more sustainable consumption, letting go and potentially finding treasure in someone else's wardrobe. So that was literally the inception. And also we spent years basically educating consumers to invest in quality in order to resell and to move away from that throw-away fashion behavior. And fast forward, 10 years after, this resale market is big. It's here again because the consumer has completely shifted and adopted that new way of consuming and selling fashion. In figures, this market is worth $30 to $40 billion, and it's growing at a huge pace, almost 15 to 20%. And today in this industry, we see ourselves with a double kind of schizophrenic role. A first role, which is a challenger role. We want to encourage brands to slow down. And I was super happy to hear Frida from Hope saying that they are willing to produce less. I think there's too much product out there, and brands should really slow down, basically, and invest in quality and produce quality product, and maybe sometimes seasonless and less trends also, to literally fight this fast fashion again mentality and throwaway fashion. So that's our first role, but the second role is also supporting that industry and celebrating it, because we truly believe in and support the creativity of our designers and the craftsmanship. And by creating that virtual circle between first-hand and second-hand, we truly believe that it brings value and a more sustainable and drives the industry towards a more sustainable impact. So we've done a survey last year, basically with the BCG, which shows that the second-hand sellers or the first-hand buyers, so that really virtuous wheel is driven by resale. And on the other side, we want also to democratize fashion to a wider audience. And in the same survey, we've proven that resale is a recruiting mechanism for brands, because 71% of these second-hand buyers are buyers that could not afford the brand firsthand. So they're saying that they're trying basically the brand secondhand because it's more affordable. And once their purchasing power grows and improves, they're happy to buy that brand again firsthand. So basically, resale is really should be a partner for brands towards a more sustainable industry.
And Fanny, just to follow up, because I noticed that you started out talking about sort of fast fashion and the mass of products and how much we are not using. And now that a platform like yours and the reselling there from sort of first hand to second hand is an entry point for consumers to get into brands, could you elaborate a little bit on sort of the value of the garments that are being sold on your platform? How are you giving it and adding value to it? Because, of course, not everything necessarily has value. The product needs some sort of value in itself. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? And then we'll go to Nikolai afterwards.
Yes, that's why we are positioned. I mean, we see Vestiaire as a photography of fashion, so we accept more or less a lot of brands, even some fast fashion brands, because again, we think that those products are produced. So our mission is to give them a second life. But basically, we encourage people to trade. If you have a certain amount of budget for, let's say, to buy a bag, you better you're gonna have a better quality bag if you invest in second hand versus in first hand, because maybe first hand you can just afford a fast fashion piece, but buying second hand you will be able to buy a designer piece. So basically, the more qualitative and exclusive the products are, the higher their resale value is, and also of course the more timeless the pieces are, and the more they maintain their resale value. So of course the luxury brands, and if you're talking about the very, very high luxury like Hermes and Chanel, they will hold their resale value very well, versus some more trend-led brands or cheaper brand will have a lower resale value because the quality is less product, so people won't be able to recoup that much in terms of resale value afterwards.
Thank you so much. And Nikolai, I'll go over to you. You are the founder of Ganni, based in Copenhagen. And in the sort of development of Ganni, you have incorporated different notions of resale, pre-love, pre-conditions, collections, sorry, not conditions. Could you sort of explain to us a bit how these concepts of elongating life of collections, how important that is for you in the business and developing that?
Yes, I mean, maybe taking one step back, I think it's important to acknowledge or be aware of, as a brand trying to behave responsibly, that it is not enough just replacing a conventional cotton with an organic one and then thinking, job done, I'm now responsible or sustainable. You have to kind of approach behaving responsibly in a holistic way. You need to consider the full life cycle of a product. I've read studies that says that if you can get a customer to share a dress once, so shared between two people, you tend to reduce your carbon footprint by 40%. So there's a massive reduction there. And also, people would argue that if you produce a responsible product, however, you still sell and consume it in a conventional way, then you haven't really had any solid impact, because you're still contributing to a system of pure consumption. So we try to apply a kind of a holistic approach to how we go about behaving responsibly, and that includes very much looking into alternatives ways of consuming the product. We work with Continued Fashion, a platform for rentals. We've even invested in that privately, full disclosure. So we also work with Vestiaire, of course, and we're looking into other innovative ways of kind of consuming the end product. And I mean, it's also from a kind of a cynical business perspective that it makes sense. It's about making money, obviously, also, and kind of expanding your market into like the afterlife market of a product. It's obviously also about reducing carbon, which plays a huge role in all of this. But it's also to kind of get to a point where you maintain contact with your customer for much longer than just like typically just selling the product and then trying to reach out to them afterwards through an email campaign. We'd much rather kind of continue that engagement with the end consumer for as long as possible.
And how do you make sure, because you mentioned that you actually need to work holistically with this as you do with sustainability in general, but how do you make sure that partnerships like the one you have with Vestiaire, the one you have with Fashion Continued, as you said, that a Danish platform that is going to market now already, how are you making sure that it influences the overall business and that in the overall sort of strategy of the business, and that it isn't just sort of a little add-on to the side while you're pushing out sort of main collections, but that it actually influences the way you operate in your overall organization?
That's a good question, and I think it's something that a lot of brands are struggling with because, like, historically, sustainability or responsibility kind of grew out of sourcing and production typically, and it's typically tied to the product. So what we've done is that we've tried to kind of create this virtual organization that we call Ganni Lab. And in Ganni Lab, like, has representatives from all parts of the organization, and we work on projects. Like the overarching goal is for us to one day create a collection, a fashion collection, and by fashion I mean a collection that kind of lives off of newness and consumption, but hopefully responsible consumption, but that is like zero impact, whatever that means. That target kind of is constantly redefined, but that's we are hoping to one day kind of bring together all the resources from sales to merchandising to sourcing to design and create a product that truly kind of complies with core circularity principle. But I'm not going to lie to you or oversell it. It's a super tough process.
And how, because for example, the exhibition that you're showcasing now during Copenhagen Fashion Week, you're featuring a previous collection. For example, you're featuring a collab with Levi's focusing on denim. Could you elaborate on that? Because I know that there are notions of this as well in that collaboration before we need to wrap up.
Yeah, I love the Levi's project personally because obviously I've worn 501s as everybody else has, and I remember that particular moment when I wore the first ones. They were white. But obviously, I mean, it's a super cool project. We've created a collection of rental denim that's made out of pre-worn Levi's 501s. But what I love most about the product is that it has it's RFID tagged, and we encourage kind of like the consumers renting the product to connect photos with the denim, so that say you were to rent the jeans 12 months from now, you would be able to kind of track the journey that a pair of jeans has been on with other consumers. So I think that's kind of like it's kind of beautiful, not just kind of using pre-worn denim to create new ones, but also making sure that while people use the denim, we actually add value to the end product.
That sounds really interesting. So we're incorporating new technology into this as well. Fanny, I'll just come over to you here before we need to wrap, because as you said, this market is booming still and will continue to do so. So for you and for Vestiaire Collective, could you very shortly just tell us a bit about what's next for you? What are you looking into in terms of developing the platform and the business?
Sure. Three main projects for the end of the year and above and beyond. International expansion. We're already in Europe, US, and expanding in Asia, opening Korea soon. The second element, the second big project is sustainability. So going deeper, we hired our Chief Sustainability and Inclusivity Officer earlier this year. We have big projects we're working on. Watch the Space is going to be released in Q4 this year. So great tools for the community to embrace even a better and more activist behavior. And the third big project is partnering with brands. We the second step of our BCG survey over the summer, and we're going to release a study basically showing how resale should partner with brands, because we truly believe that to drive this industry forward, brands should offer alternative solutions like rental or resale, and Ganni, I think, is leading the way, and congratulations, Nicolas. So we are developing a service called Resell as a Service for brands to be able to engage in that journey. So that's really the main project.
Thank you. So something to look out for if you are interested in this industry. Nikolai, we need to wrap up, but same question to you. What's next for Ganni and this adventure?
So within the context of like the afterlife of the product, lots of things happening. I mean, we're gonna dive further into rentals. We're gonna work even more with innovative platforms like Vestiaire. Thank you, Fanny, for providing that opportunity. But also, we're looking into potential repair guarantees, like that kind of exceeds the product guarantee or the return guarantee, but so that you can kind of have your dress repaired over the course of a 12 or 24 month period for free. But then, as we all know, the fashion industry is extremely outsourced, so we rely heavily on third-party suppliers innovating and bringing new concepts to the market. So I'm hoping that we'll see in the future more novel concepts that will cater for the afterlife of a product like Vestiaire and continued fashion, and like a lot more of those hopefully will kind of pop up within the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for participating today, both to you, Nikolai, and to Fanny. And thank you for watching this talk on the resale industry in fashion. Thank you.